Hey guys, I'd like to call our meeting to order at 5:45 p.m. We welcome you all to the first meeting of spring quarter. I hope everybody had a great spring break, for those who had a spring break. Sorry, Joey. Yeah. I'll start with roll call and attendance. John Bowen.
Here.
Joseph Bryant.
Here.
J.D. Charest.
Here.
Serafini.
Here.
Miles Glover.
Here.
Kay Kennison.
Here.
Robert Lane.
Here.
Robert Mosier.
Here.
Catherine
O'Neill.
Here.
Todd Shiver.
Here.
Ashley Stubbs.
Here.
Whew, it's good to hear that in person, not over the phone. Derek Whittam.
Here.
Connie Williams.
Here.
And I am present, and we have Sharon Jonason and Josh Mutart absent tonight, so they can make it. We'll start with approval of the agenda. Yeah.
There is one piece that I want to put up on there before we go to the vote request. The old business, the NIR SA conference request, they've asked to have that just removed at this time due to scheduling. That's they can't attend the conference. So they're asking to be removed from the agenda.
I'd like to entertain a motion. It's so long.
Wouldn't be at the vote request.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow, it's been a long few weeks. All right.
Could you let us know the reason behind that, those requests?
Why they're asking for voting requests. Both of the two supplemental funding requests are requesting votes because of the timing of when those conferences and competitions will be taking place. Will be happening before next week.
Okay. All right. So, I'd entertain a motion to add the vote.
You should.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to add supplemental funding request 1417 votes after, we'll do subsection C, new business. So one would be 1417 vote, as well as 1419 votes under subsection C under new business.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion passes. We'll be voting on those tonight. I'd also like to entertain a motion to remove NERSA conference request 1414 reconsideration. Miles?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so old business subsection A will be removed. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the April 2nd meeting agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Agenda approved. Move on to section 4, approval of the minutes from a while ago. Just want to take a look at those real quick. To entertain a motion to approve the minutes from March 12th, 2014.
So moved.
Is there a second? JD, any discussion? All in favor of approving minutes? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, minutes approved. Into section 5, reports. I don't think I have anything to report. I have a cold tonight, so bear with me. Robert, if I start coughing, I might eat.
The only thing I have is Sharon will be out this week and next week for the SA meeting. She will be in the office though, so if there are questions throughout the week, you can direct those to her. But anything for the meeting itself, send to me.
All right, move on to section 6, public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to section 7, new business, subsection A. We'll start with supplemental funding request number 1417, NWACSM conference. The Exercise Science Club is requesting $2,500. So So at this time, you have the floor. You can come up here, and you have 10 minutes until 6 o'clock.
I'm Joshua Howard. I'm president of the Exercise Science Club. And in Wenatchee, our CWU is going to be hosting the American College of Sports Medicine Conference. And in doing so, we are trying to bring up towards 80 students. And the money requested, $2,500, is going to go towards covering expenses for hotel, because it'll be April 17th through the 19th. So students will be staying up there for multiple days. And the money will be used to cover the gas to get up there, the registration fees, and the cost for just being up there for 3 days. And the goal of this conference is to review the scientific principles related to human psychologic and physical systems that apply to the principles of specific functional and pathologic conditions. So what's going to be happening is there's going to be lectures and presentations from professionals all over the country that are going to be going over specific parts in our field of exercise science and nutrition, covering what it is that we're learning, specific things from our own field. And these are going to be current topics and current research that's going on that completely relate to what we're learning right now in school. So the benefits is going to be, for the students going in there, will be learning what it is that the professionals in our field are working at and looking at, and it's just going to be a great opportunity for them to be able to basically get immersed in the field of what's going on currently and what and yeah, that basically covered. Is there any questions?
Is there any questions? Who is that? Todd, go ahead.
The CWU is sponsoring this year. It says it's going to be in Wenatchee. Is this the one right?
Yes, Wenatchee.
It says Central Washington University is the host college of the conference
Yes, we are.
in Wenatchee.
Yes.
And you're looking for 80 students from here to attend in Wenatchee?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Derek?
Where did you get the number for the anticipating academic senate? I see you have $2,000 there. Where did you get that number?
Well, that's the number, the amount that you can request from Student Academic Senate. They're doing that right tonight, actually, as well. So that's where that number came from.
Robert?
Just a point of clarification, student academic bylaws limit the request to $1,500 for up to December.
Oh, yeah, I think they changed that this year. It had been $1,500 up until this year, and then they recently changed that policy.
For informational purposes, can I recognize the gallery? Kelsey Miller, the chair, SAS is here. So, is it?
It's 1,500.
Okay.
But they both know that.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
So it's 1,500 for SAS.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Are there any further questions at this time? JD?
So you said that this is just, I'm just curious, maybe we're crunching the issue. You said there's going to be 12 rooms with 4 students per room, so that's 48 students. And you said some students will not be staying, so that you're...
Some students have other priorities as
So
they're staying.
half of them aren't staying tonight.
Yeah, roughly.
Are there any further questions at this time? Sarah?
How were the students selected? Was it just all exercise science students?
All students that were interested in going are accepted to be able to go. These are just the most of the ones from our field were interested.
Robert?
How many other colleges are attending?
I'm not quite sure how many. What's that mean?
It's colleges from Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and Alaska. So, like the University of Oregon, Oregon State, Willamette, Linfield,
Gonzaga, Whitworth.
So you guys have like a lot.
So there's a lot that go. Because we are hosting, Essential is the host, obviously it's not in Ellensburg, a lot of that comes from finding places to stay. In Wenatchee, we can be at the convention center, and then there's hotels right around that. We didn't have anything to do with where it's actually hosted, the city it's hosted in. But professors from the department will be collaborating with professors from around the country. So really, you basically get to hear lectures that you wouldn't hear on a daily basis, an extension of what we hear in class, but much more, and from people from Stanford and Arizona State, Ball State, an opportunity we wouldn't have on a daily basis.
Are there any further questions at this time? Ashley and Todd?
Josh, I'm just not seeing it on the request here. Are students contributing any funds from their own pockets?
The hope is we can reduce the cost so they don't have to pay out of pocket for anything. They do have to become a member of the Exercise Science Club. It's a small fee, not a lot, but we really work to your students and have a lot of other expenses and work to be able to cover that so they have this opportunity.
How many of those students are members now?
All of them are members that are going. It is required to be a member of the Exercise Science Club.
Todd?
The gas for travel, it's 140 miles per round trip. You're figuring that the carpooling up to Wenatchee.
Yes.
Did you look into the cost of the van?
At the beginning of the spring quarter, it was just kind of we were like limited on time to kind of look into that.
Are there any further questions at this time? Robert?
When you say you're limited on time, how far in advance do you know about this conference?
Let's see. When was this, Stephanie?
We've known about it for a while. We're trying to go in, follow the order that you're supposed to request money in. Obviously, you're supposed to go to Club Senate first, and then Academic Senate in here last. We're trying to follow that order, and because the conference falls spring quarter and so close into the quarter, it was hard to really promote it winter quarter, kids not knowing their schedules and exactly how their classes were playing out, and as far as how many were going. Now that we're into spring quarter, we have a much better idea how many are able to go and attend, and continuing to increase that amount this week as kids are settling in. So that was kind of one of the problems we ran into, is getting a head count when there's a lot of students that are not necessarily in the exercise science department winter quarter because they have other classes, now they're in their spring quarter, or vice versa.
The main problem was just not knowing how many students were going to be able to attend, and we knew that within the conference falling right after the first couple weeks of classes starting, that was when we were going to start really finding out how many people.
Are there any further questions at this time? Last call? Robert? Okay. Oh, thank you. We'll vote on this tonight.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to invite supplemental funding request number 1419, RPC Ranger Challenge Sandhurst Competition is requesting $880. I believe it's our very own JD.
Andrew, not. So, everybody here tell you know me. This is the Wildcat Battalion Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major Cody Paulson. He's also the captain for our ROTC team, our ROTC Ranger Challenge team. And he okay off here, Sergeant Major.
Yeah, do we have a clicker or something?
Me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, my name's Cody. You don't have to call me Sergeant Major or anything. All right, I'm just Cody. This is our presentation. Go ahead. All right, so first of all, Ranger Challenge is considered the varsity sport of Army ROTC. We have a co-ed team of 11 cadets. We have 2 females on our team. One of them is an alternate, and then we have one person from each class. So we have 1 freshman, 1 sophomore, 1 junior, and 1 senior. At least one on our team. We have multiple, actually, of each, but it's a requirement to have 1 of each. So I'm basically getting at that we are a diverse team. We don't exclude from anybody. We have females and we have people from each class. We have very strenuous tryouts For example, one of the events for our tryouts this year was a 12-mile ruck march with a 45-pound rucksack, and the requirement was to do it in under 3 hours. I don't know if you've ever done that, but unless you're 6'5", you're probably going to be running half the time because it's pretty quick. And they're tested on just overall just being a good cadet and academic performance as well, because it is so rigorous. We meet 5 days a week for 2 hours a day. It goes above and beyond the normal RTC cadet demands, so we do require them to have a good GPA so that we don't bring them down at all. And basically what happens is every year they have competitions, and usually they're just regional, like all the teams in the Northwest might face each other, and then the teams in California, and then they'll pick a team to go represent our brigade over in New York, and they never give Central a chance. We've won our competition 10 out of the last 15 years. And in 2012 was the first time that they ever decided, because we might win our competition, but USC wins their competition down in California, so they always say, oh, let's just send USC. In 2012, for the first time, Central was given the chance to go to the international competition, and they took the highest placing ever by an ROTC team. And usually this is, and I'll get on to the next competition, but this year, instead of having regional competitions, they had one giant competition with all 33 teams, all the teams from Guam, Alaska, Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Montana, Utah, and Nevada, and we beat all of them. USC, UCLA, Cal Berkeley, Hawaii, all of them. So, next slide, please. So, now we have the opportunity to go to this international competition. We'll be competing against teams from China, Canada, Chile, Jordan, India, Australia, Korea, Afghanistan, Germany, Nigeria, Mexico, and 2 teams from the United Kingdom. Now, keep in mind, these are not ROTC teams. In ROTC, the students come to the college, and then they go to the ROTC building and they sign up. So, ROTC might not necessarily have as much of a say in who they get to pick. We will be going up against the military academies from each one of these countries. That means they handpick the best people in their country to come compete against us. And that says a lot because we took the highest placing ever by a ROTC team in 2012. And we're looking forward to beating, Penn State came last year and beat our record. So now we need to go take our record back. So we'll be competing against 47 American teams. That includes 36 from West Point alone. And then there are only 7 other ROTC teams there. And 1 from the Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, and Marine Academy. Next slide, please. So the learning objectives for the competition, this is an event for cadets in ROTC to go above and beyond the normal. So what they test people on is leadership, physical fitness, mission tactics, and mental agility. But what I want to focus on in all of that is the physical fitness, because what they really try to get you to do is they try to get you so exhausted that you can't even think straight, and then they test you on your leadership and your mission tactics and your mental agility and see if you can even think straight and see if you can even remember your tactics. So for example, in our last competition, we got done running 6 miles, we sprinted into the finish line, and I ran in and I said, Central Washington University. They handed me a folder and said, your next mission starts right now. And we had to start running again. And then when we got there, it was, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? And so they're constantly making you move and they're constantly making you think. And it goes to show a lot about the strength of these Central cadets. So, next slide, please. Benefits to the university. You may not know this, but the Army is, now that we're drawing out of Afghanistan, the Army is trying to shrink. They're cutting about 100,000 soldiers, trying to cut 100,000 soldiers out of the Army, and that includes ROTC programs. There are 270 programs in the United States, and they're trying to cut about 70 of those. So that's roughly about 1/4, somewhere in there. I'm not a math major. So, and if you look at the state of Washington alone, we have UW, Wazoo, Gonzaga, Eastern, all schools that are bigger than us. Okay, that's 4 schools right there, and they're cutting 1/4 of the schools in the United States. So the fact that we are getting recognized not just within our Northwest region, not just within our brigade, but internationally, people from all over the world are going to know Central Washington's name. It brings a lot of good publicity to this program and really increases our chances of staying a program at this school. Like I said, national and international recognition. Central has been nationally known as one of the best RTC programs simply because of our small 11-man Ranger Challenge team. And because we'll be getting that international exposure, we'll be meeting with officers, generals, and cadets from all of these other nations. And that is going to really develop the cultural understanding of all of these cadets. They're going to get to know the cultures of different countries. They're going to learn how to speak to officers from different countries. And they're going to bring all that back to Central and not only make this a better university, but a better program, because this is a cadet-led program. And so when they're seniors and they're in the leadership roles, they're just going to be better developed cadets because of this experience. So next slide, please.
All right, so this is the budget. We've broken the budget down into 2 slides. This is what I call a simple budget, and then we have another budget that shows how we're saving, because we're saving a load of money. So this is what we're doing. Our airfare is going to be about $8,250 to the smaller airport closer to West Point. Our food on travel days is about $880. So we've got 11 cadets, and we're saving $40 each day for 2 days. Remember, these guys are athletes. They need to fuel their bodies. They need to eat a lot of food. And our baggage fare is going to be $1,100, and that's about, because these guys are carrying about 80 pounds of gear with them, so they're about $100, and we say $100 for 2 check bags times 11 people. So that's that. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so I know we've had budgets before that are really confusing, so I don't want to make this confusing. This is that last slide. This is what we could have spent. So our food, we're staying, I'm using words that I'm saying. I'm not on the team, I'm just representing the team because they couldn't make it. The team is going to be staying with West Point cadets, and they're going to be eating in the West Point cafeteria. So they're going to save money that they would be spending on lodging for the whole week that they're, and the food that they'd be doing there. So if, say we were doing that, say we were staying in a hotel and we were eating at McDonald's or wherever, our total would come to $15,650, but since we're doing it, our total is coming to $10,230. So we're saving about 34%. So we really want to minimize cost as much as we can, especially because the government is paying for a lot of this, and that's something that the team earned all on their own in their hard work. So next slide. So these are this is some pictures of the events that they did in JBLM in March. Sorry, Major, you can probably explain these better than I can.
Yeah, these are just some pictures from our last competition that we won at Joint Base Lewis McCord over here. Here's a picture on the obstacle course. This is a climbing wall. This was really interesting. It's too steep to climb, and we were down here with all of our gear at the bottom and a rope, and they said, get to the top. And so we couldn't climb it, so we just had to improvise. We ended up making like a human ladder. And then we actually ended up doing a World War II PT test, which involved a 300-meter shuttle run as fast as you could, which 300 meters is a really long distance to sprint.
And if you look really close, you can see the sergeant major back here stuck in one.
Yeah, that is me actually, in the back. I'm just observing everyone, making sure there, because I'm the captain, I have to watch and make sure everyone's doing okay. So, and this was just one event. Normally in the Army, you might do a PT test one day and it's like, all right, that was hard, we're done. And then, but this was just our warm-up. This was on day 1. 16 hours later, after another 14 miles with 60 pounds of gear on after this, then we were done. So, next slide.
This is the 2012 team that won. They placed first out of all ROTCs and 13 in the nation. Excuse me, in the world, 13th in the world. So I'll beat a whole bunch of teams. And we actually have 3 returners from that team. These 2 top in the left corner, and this guy right here. These are all returners from that team. So hopefully we can use it to our advantage. Next slide. And this is, I hope this video works. A lot of the training that they get to do is stuff that most cadets don't get to do. So this is a live fire exercise that they got to do just about a month and a half ago. And they're actually going out on their own. They're actually spending money out of their own pockets, going down to Weimar, buying rounds, and taking, oh, it's not going to work? Oh, dang it. It was a pretty cool video. But anyway, they're going to Weimar and they're buying their own rounds and they're getting, their buddies' guns. They're going out and doing practice and shooting. So they're doing a lot of extra work outside of their own just to be able to go for this.
So any funds would be greatly appreciated.
All right, cool. Thank you guys for your presentation. Is there any questions at this time? There.
So what's the source of the funds other than the 800, or excuse me, 800?
Okay, so everything else is coming from Uncle Sam. They're paying for the airfare and, they're absorbing the cost that it would be of the food at West Point and not really losing much money for the lodging.
So why aren't they absorbing the cost of the travel?
Okay, so you can't get all of your travel days not always paid for. So for example, the master sergeant, who's the professor that's going with us, he's getting his paid for because he's active duty. But because we're cadets and we're not active duty, we can't get that. We can't get that.
I'd like to touch on that a little bit too. I had the opportunity this summer to go to a 3-week training event in Kansas, and Uncle Sam paid for my food while I was traveling. Well, they gave me $80 for 3 weeks, which if you do the math, 3 meals a day, that's a little over $1 per meal. And so, I don't know if I'm sure everyone here's eaten at an airport before. It's not very cheap, and so $1 per meal is not going to go very far, especially when you're looking at 11 cadets. Any funds would be greatly appreciated. And also because we are athletes, we are going to be competing in a competition. We'd like to be able to afford a little bit more healthier options instead of just going to McDonald's and buying off the value menu and putting junk in our bodies basically before our competition. So,
I had a question. For your luggage, was that both ways?
Yes.
Okay. So it's one bag per person.
We're assuming that.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee at this time?
So, is this school the only school that's the ROTC program for Washington, or are there others?
this is the only ROTC team going from those states that I talked about: Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Montana, Nevada. We're the only ROTC team going from any of those states because we were the ones that beat everyone from those states, and so they'll send us. But there's another team going from North Dakota. There's probably one going from Texas, somewhere down in near Florida, and yeah, there will be 8 total. But we're the only one on the West Coast that's going. So, Derek.
Yeah. So let me see if I get this straight. So there's the ROTC programs that are sending sort of like divisions of the United States, maybe what, like
8.
8 divisions.
Exactly.
And then each of the military academies
Sends it on.
are sending however many they want. Because did
Well-
you say, how many is West Point sending?
West Point alone has 36 teams, and that's because that's how many platoons or companies they have, and it's basically like a requirement at their school that they have at least 1 team per company or something like
Okay,
that.
so they are sending all 36?
Yes.
I mean, it's right down the street.
It's right down the street, and they pretty much stack the competition in their favor, and they still get beat by us. So,
Good.
yeah.
Any further questions at this time? Last call? Sarah?
I believe that the guidelines state that we're not supposed to fund food. So I'm just wondering if you guys can present an argument why we should make an exception. Unless you want to.
Connie?
Yeah, I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the guidelines require that we not fund food. I think it's generally held by the committee that we look very hard that those people that are requesting money for their own food, but there's no requirement saying we cannot cover.
Okay.
But that's a very good point, because generally we do look for the individuals to cover.
I just kind of wanted to give them a chance
Yeah.
to make that argument because I anticipated it being part of our decision later, so.
Yeah, and like a big part of that is the amount of work that these team members are putting in. It's like a varsity sport for them. So a lot of them can't work at another job, and it's not super easy. So.
Derek?
Yeah, personal preference.
Great. Any further questions at this time? Last call? All right, thanks guys, we'll go on this here in a little bit. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to new business, subsection B, base funding request. Number 1418, Learning Commons Tutoring Service is requesting base funding in the amount of $90,125. Go ahead and shout the floor.
So, you all met me about a month ago when I was here talking about a fee that we were proposing that was across the board. We were requesting that all students pay $3 a quarter to support tutoring services. I think most of you remember who I am. Do I need to make that introduction again? Are we good? Okay.
I was on the phone. Can you
Okay.
give me like a
Yeah, Mary Brown. I'm the
Your face
director of the Learning Commons, which includes the Math Center and the Writing Center, which is what I'm here tonight asking you for money to support. Are we fine with that?
Awesome.
Yes, requesting an addition to our base budget. So I brought with me, I noticed last time, I have a handout. I noticed last time I was here, a lot of you had questions that were dealing with who uses tutoring, and you had some pretty specific questions about our budget. So I have a handout that should look familiar. Some of the information is the same as the first handout that I brought, but some of it deals with the questions that you all were asking, because I thought they were great questions, and I thought, well, okay, let's talk about those things. So one of your first questions was who uses tutoring services? Who's coming in and talking to a tutor? Legitimate question. So by assigning department, that's the department that assigned whatever homework it is that the students are bringing in to get help with. By assigning department, you'll notice that most of the students who seek tutoring are coming from math and English classes, but that's not across the board. So winter quarter, we did 2,849 tutorial sessions total. And of those sessions, 560 were from English classes, and 1412 were from math classes. The rest of them were from across the university, from all sorts of other classes. But if we look at it by intended major, one of the questions that we ask students when they check in for a tutorial is what they think they're going to major in. The picture changes, and all of a sudden, what we're not serving English students, we're not serving math majors. Who we're working with is everybody else at the university who's not an English major and who's not a math major, and we're supporting them primarily in their gen ed classes. But you'll notice if we break it down by year of study who we're seeing, we see a lot of freshmen, and that's to be expected. That's when they're taking their gen ed math and their gen ed English classes. So that's pretty normal. You'll notice that there's a big boost again at the junior year. And the reason that we're seeing students again at the junior level is either they are really scared of math or English and they've been putting off that gen ed class as long as they can, and they take it their junior year, or they're starting into their majors and exploring what they're doing, and they're getting in and they're realizing, hey, this is harder than I thought it was, and so they're starting to seek tutoring again at the junior level, and then it backs off again. So that explains why it drops a little bit for sophomores, why it drops a little bit for seniors and grad students. It's when the students need us most that we're there for them at those points in their careers. I also thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit about who the tutors are, because they're all students. The math tutors and the writing tutors, they're all students from across the university. I brought a picture of last quarter's crew. So this is who was working in the Math Center and the Writing Center last quarter. The group has grown this quarter. All of them are CWU students, all current students. Most of them are juniors and seniors. Occasionally there'll be a sophomore who qualifies to do the training, or a grad student who wants to work for another year or two as a tutor. But most of them are going to be juniors and seniors. There are 26 trained and working math tutors and writing tutors. All of them have completed 1 quarter of training before they go on our payroll. Before we hire them, we put them through a pretty rigorous training course. There are 10 students who are doing the training this quarter. To qualify to take the training and to continue to be tutors, they have to maintain a grade point of at least 325. Most of them are much higher than that. All of them do at least an hour a week of ongoing professional development throughout the entire time that they're employed as tutors, because we think that it's important for them as students to be receiving continuous training and getting better at their jobs. And also, if you think about it, assignments change quarter to quarter. We're inviting in a lot of faculty to talk with them about what's going on in classes so that they're usually up on what's happening in most of the classes that we tutor. they're a really diverse group. Tons of different majors are represented within that group that you see behind me here. Some of them are law and justice or philosophy majors, Spanish, English majors, math majors, actuarial science majors. They represent the student body at its best, at its highest level of academic achievement. Those are the students who work as tutors. And they're amazing. I'm so lucky that I get to work with them. So last time I talked to you, I didn't have final numbers for winter yet. The quarter wasn't finished. So I amended that chart that I showed you last time to show you the increase in demand for tutoring since the Learning Commons was founded in 2011. So our first quarter, we were still in our old location in Hertz, and it was respectable. We did 1,326 tutorials. Over the next 2 years, though, after we moved to the library, things started to change. So fall of 2012 was when we moved to the library. And that quarter, you can see, there was an increase from the preceding year. Even the quarter we moved, when students couldn't find us, when we were bouncing around the library because our space wasn't finished, and sometimes we were on the first floor and sometimes we were on the second floor, students were still finding us and using the service more frequently. By this past fall, we had more than doubled the number of tutorials we were doing. 112% increase in tutoring. And the same thing happened last quarter. So if you compare winter quarter for the past 3 years, again, we're more than doubling the number of tutorials that we're doing. And we're doing that on the same budget that we had the first year. So even though demand has increased that significantly, we're working with the same amount of money. So the tutors are working double time to make sure that everybody gets seen. State funding decreased significantly for our program 3 years ago. The budget collapsed. What we went to was a model where developmental students who are taking English 100T, Math 100A, B, or C, those students pay a fee to take the class. And a portion of that fee supports tutoring services. The problem with that is that only 25% of students take a developmental class, and everybody has access to math tutors and writing tutors. And developmental students aren't using the services at a rate that's higher than the rest of the university. Winter quarter, only 9% of the tutorials we did were with developmental students. So they're footing the bill for a service that everybody is using. And as the director of the program, ethically, I have some concerns about that because it's a service that everybody gets to use, but only 25% of students in their first year are paying for the program. Demand for tutoring exceeds what we have budgeted, even with the remedial classes, even with the developmental classes. The demand is higher. What you asked me for was, what does our budget actually look like? Last time I was here, here it is. You've got our state budget, our developmental budget, and what we receive from S&A. So on the state side of the house, we've tried to keep our administrative costs there as much as we could. We've tried to keep a little bit of our student staff there because they have to be. That's the matching funds for the TRIO tutoring programs. That's the tutors that do the supplemental instruction in the study groups. That group of students has to stay on the state side of our budget. I get it from S&A, there are specific ways that we told you we were going to use that money, and so we were really careful to keep other areas of the budget off of that line, which leaves the developmental course fee budget in the middle there. And some of our administrative costs go from that budget. Our faculty who teach the developmental classes, of course, are paid off of that budget because that just makes sense. Our math and writing tutors are paid from there. Our goods and services come from there because that made the most sense. With the admin fee that you have to pay, you don't have to pay admin on goods and services, so we put them all under that budget to reduce the amount of the admin fee that we were paying. What else? We do get socked with the admin fee pretty heavily. That 65,000 that we have budgeted for math and writing tutoring doesn't cut it. So we had a carry forward on that line that we decided we were gonna put toward tutoring. We were gonna staff it the way it needed to be staffed this year, which meant that we spent an additional, or we will have by the end of this quarter, spent an additional 30,000. By the end of next year, we won't have anything left in carry forward. That'll be zero, which means to run the program the way it's being run won't happen. We'll have to make cuts. There will be fewer tutors available if we don't find another funding line. We're gonna run out of money. So we're here asking you to throw some support our way, hopefully. Some of the benefits that come from this to the university, obviously our students are being more successful in their classes. Clearly, if they're coming in and working with a tutor regularly, they're gaining the confidence, they're gaining the skills they need to be successful in their classes. It creates student jobs. The Learning Commons as a whole employs around 70 students every year. That includes the SI leaders, the one-on-one tutors who work for part of the program, and the math and the writing tutors. So that's 70 student jobs every year. Means there'll be more tutors, or sufficient tutors to keep up with the demand, to make sure that that increase that we gave this year and will give next year continues. It equalizes the funding burden. It means developmental students aren't paying for all of the tutoring that everybody has access to. And it lets us improve the program for developmental students. It lets us put the money that we were using to pay the tutors back toward developmental students. So it would let us lower the course caps and hire more faculty to teach the classes. Math 100C classes are capped at 42 students right now. They're usually about 45, 46 students in that class. That's too big for students who really need an instructor's attention and help. So lower the course cap there. It would also mean that we could create a tutoring program that was specifically for developmental students, where we could do writing groups with tutors for the English 100T students, and where we could do math labs that were specifically staffed with tutors who understand developmental students. Okay, that's what I have for you.
All right, any questions at this time? Catherine, and then Rob.
So my main problem with this is if you're gonna make everyone pay a fee, then everyone should be able to use it, but there's a lot of courses that aren't represented. So would you add more tutor disciplines like physics and chemistry, those?
Ideally, yes. And we've staffed pretty strategically so that there's a really wide variety of tutors who are available and expertise that is there. And we will continue to do that. But one of my ultimate goals as the director of the program is to add more subject-specific tutoring to the program because there's need. I know people want it for more classes than we offer.
Rob?
That kind of led into my next question. How do you schedule these tutors to work? Because it looks like you have a lot of tutors. So how does that work?
So the Math Center coordinator and I sit down, and this quarter we had to schedule 36 of them because we've got the 26 returning tutors and the 10 who are in training. They put in a schedule request at the end of the quarter, let us know when they're available. We sit down and look at their availability and put together a schedule of when they're going to be there. And we try and do it based on expertise in addition to availability, so that if we've got a math major, we try and match that person with a physics major, so that we've got a little bit more coverage, a physics major and accounting major, so that there's some variety in the expertise that's in the tutoring center.
Cool, thank you.
Derek?
I have a couple questions. So, do you have the numbers for the total number of tutorials over the course of the year now?
So it would be this quarter or last quarter.
Maybe not exactly, but.
Yeah, we're anticipating that the trend will continue and we'll come pretty close to 3,000 again in the spring.
Okay, because I don't see spring numbers.
Right, we don't have spring this year,
No,
but, I'm sorry, I didn't bring them, but it was, we came closest to 2,000 that we'd come last spring. But I think we're still 1,000 more both quarters this year, pretty close to 1,000 more.
Could you say approximately how much each one of these tutorials is costing?
Yeah.
Like the total amount of money spent versus.
Tutors right now get paid $9.50 an hour.
No, that's what I mean. Okay, so it looks like your budget is about, what, $600,000 over the course of a year? So if you have, what, 7,000 tutorials, then what would that be? $27.90 per tutorial being put out the door. Would that be about right?
We all have smartphones, right? They're smartphones.
Yeah. No, I'm afraid so. I'm Jesse Nelson. I get to work with student achievement, which is where those learning commons is housed into. And I mean, Derek, that's one way you could look at it, but the 600,000-ish in total budget is covering a number of other things too. So there's a part of that that's the match for the TRIO program. So you would want to pull that out of your equation that you're thinking about right now. So one way to look at it, we generally figure that one tutorial is about an hour, because you've got prep for the potential assignments that are coming in, then you've got tutoring notes after the session. And so Prairie actually led with $9.50 is what we pay a tutor per hour. That's about what the direct cost is for a tutoring session. It's about $9.50.
Okay.
Personal privilege.
Great.
Do you want to answer?
No, thank you.
Okay. So then what you're saying is that if the number of tutorials went up to $5,000 a quarter, I mean $5,000 a quarter, that would scale, that you wouldn't need an extra, well, twice as much money. You would just need more student employees.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we, with what we're doing, we have some wiggle room in the number of tutorials we can provide with $90,000. That gives us quite a bit of leeway and adjustments that we can make to the type of tutoring that we're doing and the systems that we're using.
Derek, one more question, and that is, do you break it down by what classes? So when people come in, do they say what class they're for? So you do know?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I did, it's on the front page.
oh no, you have the
By assigning department. So if you want it by specific class, we could break it down further. All we need is an instructor's name, but that would have taken up too much room, and I wanted to be like 6 pages
Well,
of 10 pages of handouts.
Robert?
How did you come up with the number 90,125? I'm just curious.
So we looked at what we were going to spend this year,
Okay.
and took that.
The 120 or
The 125 was just how the math worked out.
on the benefits
on the-
piece.
Yeah.
Benefits for student employees. Yeah.
So let's say S&A funds this extra base funding of $90,000 per year. Where is that going to go in the budget? Is that going to go under student staff? Is it going to go under administration?
Student staff. It's entirely student. We would
So-
only use it to pay students.
Okay.
So, could you please clarify, you want us to fund you to the amount of $90,125 or $90,125 in addition to?
In addition to.
Okay, thank you.
What you're funding right now pays for most of our tutoring program on the west side of the West Side Centers.
And ultimately, it's up to the committee to decide this, but would you want that 90,000 going under that budget or in a new budget?
A new budget would be ideal so that we can track and easily clarify and verify for you that we only spent that money on students.
Okay. Any further questions? Tom?
I had a question. You indicate you currently have 26 active tutors.
Yeah.
If this request is approved, will the number of tutors remain approximately the same, or do you anticipate hiring more tutors?
Approximately the same, but it fluctuates from quarter to quarter pretty widely throughout the year. We have a lot of math. We have very few math tutors right now. We have a lot of writing tutors, but that was because we needed to train because a lot of writing tutors are graduating this spring. So the number goes up and down, but it's usually pretty close to 30. And that seems to be sufficient.
So like, if I were to go there and say I need help in this subject, I would be with someone who majored in that subject.
We would try and match you if you specifically asked. So if you said, I have a physics assignment, who do you have who's comfortable with physics? We'd give you that person's hours.
My question is, I was just curious about GPA. Is that cumulative or is that based on major?
This is cumulative.
Do you plan on decreasing the developmental course fee if this is approved, or you need to keep it the same?
It'll probably stay the same, but it won't increase.
Okay. Catherine, Derek.
So you're increasing the budget for student staff, but not hiring more staff, correct?
Right.
So you just be extending their hours of
Right.
what exists.
There are a lot of them who want to work more hours than they're allowed.
Derek and Roblin. Roblin?
How many hours on average do you think this tutors
Around
work?
10.
Around 10? Okay.
And most of them want the full 19.
Any further questions? John?
I have one more quick question. All tutoring is one-on-one tutoring? One tutor and one student?
No, that also, so if it's writing, most of the time that's going to be one-on-one, one tutor, one student, because it's really hard to tutor a group of students unless they're all working on the same paper. Math tutoring can be one-on-one, but it can also be in a group setting where they just hang out in the lab and raise their hand if they've got a question, and a tutor comes over and talks to them.
Thank you.
Derek?
What would be the feasibility of some sort of fee at point of use? So for instance, let me give an example. So I don't know when you guys are open. Let's say you guys are open from 8 to 4.
Okay.
And somebody says, hey, you know what, I'm tutoring, but I can't do it between these hours. Can I pay to have one of the tutors help me at 6? And if they're available, and is there any feasibility of doing that?
Not on the large scale that we do and the volume that we do. It would also exclude students from tutoring who couldn't afford tutoring.
Well, they can come during the day.
Oh, okay. So
Because,
you're
I mean, they're not
saying keep
gonna
it
be able-
open during regular hours. But
Yeah, because they're not gonna be able to get it, if they don't, I mean, they're not gonna be able to get it either way after
Right.
hours, as it is right now.
The only way that we do that currently is if it's in a subject area that we don't offer tutoring support at all. If it's in an area where we don't offer support, we keep a tutor list of for hire tutors in other areas so that students who really need help in a different class, something that we're not offering tutoring for, can look at our for hire list and hopefully get matched with a tutor who can help them with the class that they're taking.
Any further questions? So what's the alternative?
Cuts.
This is not cuts.
Yeah.
Any further questions at this time? All right, we'll vote on this next one.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. All right, move on to, no?
I move that we take a recess until 6:45 for the purposes of math.
Is there a second? Rob?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Doing math for this, like doing the math numbers for voting.
For funding requests to review.
We still have two voting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Meeting is recessed till 6:45.